This Comic Cook.
20 years ago, the Maker prevented a radioactive spider from biting a young Peter Parker. He likewise prevented the creation of any other superheroes and formed a secret council to rule the world from the shadows. In a quest to free the world from the Maker's Council, Tony Stark sent Peter, now a married father of two, a package containing the same radioactive spider and a Picotech suit. After watching his uncle Ben Parker and mentor J. Jonah Jameson leave the Daily Bugle over pressure from the Bugle's owner Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, to control the news cycle, Peter felt called to action and let the spider bite him.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about, Shaw. What did you think about this second issue of Ultimate Spider-Man?
Oh, gosh. So fun. This is such an interesting comic because, and we'll get into it, but I think the coolest part about this comic is the fact that he's sort of 20 years too late to his destiny of being Spider-Man. So he's effing it up at a much older age, which is just kind of funny to me. Like that he's essentially like a middle-aged Spider-Man is funny, but then like sort of finding his footing and making the mistakes that a teenage version of himself would have made is funny to watch and witness on the panels. So I'm really enjoying that because then it's also balancing being a husband and father. And, you know, we know that struggle all too well. Imagine if we had to add superheroing on top of that. That's just crazy to me. So yeah, but I'm loving it. What do you think?
Man, Shaw, this is up there. I'm not reading a lot of Marvel right now. I would say my split right now is like 90-10 DC. Like most of my stuff that I'm reading right now is DC because there's just so much good stuff coming out. But this is probably my favorite Marvel book at the moment. And for two reasons. Number one, what you just said, it's that Spider-Man essence, like what we love about Spider-Man, but 20 years in the future, like 20 years of not being Spider-Man. And so pushing it forward, what is that story like? And you're getting the exact same thing. The second thing that I really liked is you're getting the same feeling that the original Ultimate Spider-Man gave you, where it's the Spider-Man that you know and love, but in a different setting. There's just one twist to it. The original Spider-Man, the twist was, okay, what if he's in modern age? What if he's in 2000 rather than in 1960? This twist is, what if he was pushed forward 20 years? But in both instances, the core element is, who is Spider-Man? And if you just tweak one little thing, Spider-Man still works. Batman is the same way. Like you can change just a little bit, just tweak a little bit, but Batman is still going to be Batman. And like that core essence of who is Bruce Wayne, that's what we're getting here with Peter Parker in just these two issues. We don't even know what's in store for the rest of this storyline, but for just these two issues, I'm really having a good time seeing how Hickman sets up this version of Peter Parker and this Spider-Man. And I love what we already know about Spider-Man, playing on those kind of expectations of who is J. Jonah Jameson, who is Ben Parker, who is Mary Jane, who are all these other players in Spider-Man's world. And I'm really loving that. So I'm right there with you. This is really hitting my sweet spot of story and art. I'm also loving Marco Checchetto's art. The way
the art is beautiful.
Everything
beautiful.
Just really,
I mean, every page. You got to wonder how much
page.
time was spent on this, because this is full on paintings. Like these are really impressive panels that are put together. There's one where Spider-Man, he kind of like misses. He doesn't brake soon enough. He doesn't stop well enough, and he smacks into a water tower, and the water is like dripping down his like black suit, and it just looks so cool. It almost looks like veins the way it's like contouring around all of his muscles and stuff. I'm like, just gorgeous art.
Yeah, I'm really loving everything that he's doing on the page, and with each one of the character interpretations. Like all of them feel like, hey, that's J. Jonah, that's Mary Jane, that's Peter Parker. Like all of these character models feel really worn in, and they feel like, hey, I've know these people. I've spent so much time with them, so I'm really enjoying everything that he's doing. Plus, the way the panel layouts, the way that everything is just structured, chef's kiss so far on the art. But you know what? I'm really kind of wondering at this point, Shoff, and I don't know if you're kind of in the same vein. You might be wondering about the Kingpin storyline or the Harry Osborn Goblin storyline. For me, I'm really curious about what is this Peter Parker Spider-Man, because we haven't seen the suit yet, but they kind of played with this symbiote type of suit where the mask kind of just morphs off and comes off. I don't know exactly what that is all about, that suit. And obviously he didn't have the spider yet, so we're going to see that in the next issue, because in this one we see his daughter creating the spider costume, or the spider design, I should say. But I'm curious about the web shooters. Like, how did he design those? How do they play into this world? And then that suit, what is that? Because it's not an alien, it's not the symbiote. So what is this black suit?
That's a good question. Yeah, these are all really good questions. The idea that like we don't know if it's an organic web component, or if it's coming from this, I wanted to say nanotech, but actually it's picotech. Picotech they put that word in there, and I had to look it up because I was like, I have never heard the word picotech before. I look it up.
Pico
it's
de
not
Gallo?
really. What's that?
Pico de Gallo?
Pico de Gallo. His suit is made of chopped tomatoes. South side.
That's the Pico I know.
No, he I looked it up and I was like, what is this? And so nanotech, and then the word nano, that prefix refers to a certain like microscopic level, right? But then nanotech, meaning that it's sort of like is like a smart molecules that are forming around something, right? So kind of like Tony Stark's nanotech suit, his bleeding what is it, bleeding edge, whatever it's called. But then this pico is apparently like however many degrees smaller than nano. So it's taking that kind of nanotechnology and then boosting it like to another level. So I think it's meant to be just the most futuristic thing you've ever seen. And you're right, it does. And it's kind of ironic too, because he gets his black suit before he gets his red and blue suit.
Yes.
Which is funny because that's definitely not the case normally.
Right. Playing off our
and it's not a
expectations
symbiote suit, but it does act like a symbiote suit, which is cool. So that's really cool. I think it's one thing I was wondering about, I wanted to get your take on, is on the covers. So even on the first cover of the first issue, they show Spider-Man in his suit.
Yes.
Do you think that that is the suit that he will eventually don, maybe in issue 3 or 4, or however long it takes before he's in his like true Spidey suit? Because he's not even going by Spider-Man yet. They don't have a name for him in the newspapers. It just says amazing, and he doesn't. So, but do you think that they revealed the suit ahead of time in the covers, or do you think that was just an artist's interpretation? That there's some latitude there, because I think it's weird that within the confines of what Tony Stark gave him, he didn't give him a true suit. He just gave him technology. Like, I think that's weird when he knows what Spider-Man should have looked like, right? So what do you think is going on there? Do you think we know what the suit's going to look like, or do you think that we still have yet to really get an idea?
Yeah, I think that the covers are giving us a glimpse into the future. What is this spider suit going to be? Because it's too iconic. There's very few times that they kind of veer off from the classic red and blue. You can argue between Spider-Man and Superman of who has the most iconic costume of all time. And I don't think Marvel is going to go away from that. I do like how his daughter kind of reverses the spider, the red and blue like iconography that we see at the last page of this issue,
right?
And kind of playing around with that. But I think it's inevitable. I think this is setting up the next issue. I think 3 is going to be the one that we see the suit. We already have the covers for 3, but I think, like you were saying, it's just kind of foreshadowing what we're gonna see. Even the Insomniac Spider-Man with the white spider, it's like it still has that classic, the
Yeah.
setup of red and blue, right? So I think these covers are kind of just spoiling. It's like a trailer for a movie. They're spoiling us, Shaw.
Yeah.
They're spoiling us.
I think it's pretty cool that we still get villains like the Shocker, that we still get Green Goblin, even though it's like 20 years later. Ideally, like these characters, kind of in the similar vein of like Batman. Like Batman shows up and then suddenly even more rogues that are even more outlandish
Right.
start showing up as well, right? So, but you have like the Shocker and his technology. You have that first exchange where he's Spider-Man is so naive and totally, you know, flubs it up. But it's really, really cool moment.
Is great that he is still kind of nervous and the jokes and the humor comes out, because that is the core of who Spider-Man is. I've said it on I don't know how many podcasts. The key elements that you have to get right, whether it's a video game, animated show, movie, and we haven't gotten this a lot in the Tom Holland movies or even actually any of the live action Spider-Man movies. You have to get his humor right and you have to get his sense of responsibility right. Those are the two things to me that make Spider-Man. It's the core in essence of who he is, and what makes him who he is his sense of responsibility, his sense of right and wrong, which he gets from him not stopping Uncle Ben's death, the failure on his part, that grief and guilt that he feels is a core aspect of who he is. And that's why this version is kind of interesting as well, because he doesn't have that. So that core pillar of Spider-Man is not there yet, but I think we're going to see it. That's just my personal, I think in this universe, Uncle Ben is still going to meet that untimely fate that we saw in the regular 616. But seeing his nervousness and seeing his humor come out, even as an older man, he still has that. That's just who Peter Parker is. And he's not Deadpool. He's not over the top of, one-liners and things like that. But it's still, to me, Hickman did a great job of the characterization of who Peter Parker is, on top of him being a father and a husband. A husband and a father of two. There's that one panel where he's texting Mary Jane.
Yeah.
And I sent that immediately to my wife because I was like, this is us. Like, we don't have two children, but this is us. We will send each other text messages of, hey, this is what your son is doing right now. This is what's happening. So I had I related to a lot of this Hickman Spider-Man. So I'm loving it, Shaw. Everything that is going down, I'm loving it.
Me too. I gotta tell you, the bromance I never knew I needed is J. Jonah Jameson and Ben Parker.
Yes.
Those two are so fun together. I love any panel that they are occupying. Their whole scene in the Turkish bathhouse was funny.
And it's crazy. Like there's so much in this for such a small issue.
Yeah.
Like there's so much in here. And that Turkish bathhouse scene is only one scene really out of this book, but it makes an impact. It's like this was just the banter between those two and the relationship between them. You feel like this is a great buddy cop movie. Like that element, the core element of relationships and male bonding, you're getting all of that. This is me and Shoff in the Turkish bath right here.
That's
I'll
right.
be J. Jonah and Shoff is Ben Parker. I'm really, I'm loving that aspect. The Kingpin storyline that we get a little, like there's these little, each one has their own little slices in here. And there's the A plot, the B plot, and the C plot. And I'm curious about what's going on with the Goblin. He's like looking off in the background at the Shocker. And what is he thinking at that moment? I'm wondering. I don't know if when you saw that panel of the Green Goblin, did you in your mind fill in dialogue, or did you fill in his internal monologue of what was going on, or were you just kind of like he's having this moment, this contemplative moment at that scene?
Good question. I don't know if it was him admiring the tech, or looking to set up like a team up. Like it could be the beginnings of a Sinister Six or something like that. But my question I thought to myself when I saw the panel was, how much did he see? Did he see Spider-Man as well? Because when you see him looking off, he's only looking at Shocker, who's
Right.
like launching off
Yes.
the building. But prior to that, Shocker had blasted Spidey into another dumpster again. So it was like, I'm wondering, did Goblin see Spider-Man as well? And
Yeah. I think that's going to be, I think that's going to come into play in the next
Yeah.
couple issues is either he did see him or he didn't see him. Either one, I think we're going to, in the next couple issues, we're going to get something out of that. I don't think it's just a throwaway thing. I think that is a specific mention here by Hickman to be like, okay, this is setting up something in the future. And that's
Right.
what these 2 issues that we've read so far, we reviewed the first issue on this same podcast, the same channel. So go check out our first review. But both of these have just been this really great world building and really great setup for this Ultimate Universe. You got so much in that first issue of Matt Murdock over here as a clergyman, and he's like not Daredevil, and all these people who are not superheroes, all the people that died in that, like, you know, that bombing and that attack. And it's like, there's so much here and playing upon your expectations. And this is also the same thing about the first Ultimate Universe. It set up your expectations of who you thought the X-Men were, who you thought the Fantastic Four were, who you
Right.
thought Spider-Man was, and also giving you something new, a fresh take on a well-worn concept, like something that you knew already in the back of your mind. But then also good for new readers, because that was the whole thing about the Ultimate Universe. It was supposed to be, well, what if it didn't have 40 years of continuity? What if it didn't have all this backstory? And that's the same thing here. It's like, it works if this is your first Spider-Man issue you're
Yeah.
reading, or if this is your 500th issue of Spider-Man. It works for both. And so that's why this is a really good series so far. I think they're just setting up everything that now all we got to do is stick the landing, Shaw, which
well,
Hickman-
what I think is great too is this the successful way that they're doing this so far in these 2 issues. It reminds me of, just kind of piggybacking off of your thoughts, it reminds me of how well the Scott Pilgrim Takes Off did for Netflix.
Yes.
What it had basically reinvented from
Right.
the source material of Brian Lee O'Malley's comic books,
Yep.
or the movie that exists as well, or the video game that exists.
Yeah.
Like, it took it in a
Yes.
whole different way.
Right.
And if you were new to Scott Pilgrim and only watched the Netflix show, it still stands alone as a really
Right.
entertaining and interesting story that then makes you want to check out the other stuff. Same here.
Yes.
This Spider-Man is a reinvention, but can stand alone and be your first introduction to the character and still suffice. So, loving it.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of my favorites that's happening right now in like a current series that's got new issues coming out
Yeah.
each month. Really, really enjoying this.
And we're not going to do a full review on Ultimate Black Panther, but that one, I didn't feel the same, like
Yeah.
the fullness of it. Like this Ultimate Spider-Man, I feel like the world building is there. It's like 100% this world. You're getting everything you need from the comic. The Ultimate Black Panther, I felt like there was stuff that we hadn't seen yet. Obviously, it was just the first issue, so there wasn't a whole lot. But I felt like there was stuff going on that still needed to be filled in, and it just didn't feel
Yes.
as solid.
I felt
to me.
like we missed an issue. Didn't it feel like you jumped in and there was enough material missing that could have been the prequel issue, like a issue 0 or something? Like it just didn't feel like a number 1. It felt
Right.
like a 2 or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm really loving this Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man is cooking right now, Sean. So I'm feeling really good. And next month, we're going to be getting issue 3 of Ultimate Spider-Man, and then issue 1 of Ultimate X-Men, which I talked about previously.
That's going to be cool.
Yes, Peach Momoko, she's one of my favorite artists. Don't know about her writing abilities, but as an artist, she's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
so I'm really
Peach Momoko, that's my favorite smoothie. I love that smoothie. I get that every time I go to Jamba Juice. Can I get the
With
Peach Momoko,
boba.
please? Thank you.
Yeah.
Extra boba.
I can't wait to check that out, Shaw, and I can't wait to talk more comics with you right here on This Comic Cooks.